We're all set to go for FIA Formula 3. We are deep in the Ardennes Forest. Welcome to round 8 of the 2025 campaign here at Spa-Francorchamps. This amazing circuit is deeped in as well with the fog and the anything can happen nature of racing around the longest circuit on the calendar, over 7 kilometers in length, 2 DRS zones. The highest altitude point on the circuit comes at turn 7 at Malmedy. In terms of tyre allocation, it's simple for Formula 3, just the medium compound tyre. That record at 204.321, maximum speed over 300 kilometers an hour as well. And in terms of the downforce level, it's the same as sort of just at the lower end of the spectrum. Full consumption is at a high, tyre usage there too. And we've been given the information, as Omi's alongside me in the commentary box, good morning Omi, that the start of practice is delayed, and that's due to the fog not allowing the medical helicopter to run around. So, I'll tell you what happened. Woke up at 7:34 UK time. Yeah. So, quick bath, quick run to the box, and now we've got a delay. But it's understandable because the fog level here is so low, the clouds keep it together. So we've just got a little bit of a delay. And also streaming to you for the first time in a long while in 1080p. We have got 4K coming hopefully next season as well. But right now we're in HD as well for you back at home. Omi, good morning to you. And there is a guy that you have been banging on about for ages. Freddie Slater is back in Formula 3.
Yeah, back in Formula 3, and you, of course, missed the round where we actually came in earlier on and fought for the victory, where Tom Cairns described it as, it was similar to the duel in the desert, what Rosberg and Hamilton had. It was a similar scrap as well, lap after lap of constant battling, aided with this new car and combined with that circuit as well. But now he's got another opportunity. It's going to be a tricky weekend, but I was also banging on social media about it as well. He made history here around this circuit, becoming the first ever British driver to win in FRECA as well. No British driver had previously won in that championship. He changed that around to Spa, and he also did a last to first as well around the circuit earlier this year in GB3. So he's already got so much experience, so he's all pretty much well set and poised. He's done it in the dry and he's done it in the wet as well.
So with the session delayed, we know we have a few minutes to catch up. We'll get on with you when the session actually does start, if it does start, that is, because the fog level is still quite low, Omi. And it's about visibility, isn't it? That's the dangerous thing, and their medical helicopter can't fly at the moment. But they're all in the pit lane ready to go.
Yeah, they've all been able to get to the pit lane, but it's all about waiting for this fog to clear up on what is definitely expected to be a disruptive weekend with the rain that is expected as well. So yeah, every single session is important because you just don't know what's going to happen.
Okay, let's send it downstairs then and join our colleagues at the World Feed. I believe it's Chris McCarthy alongside Alex Bundle.
Conditions are like that. He may have a little bit of an advantage over some of the drivers this weekend, but don't count out a lot of the standard names that we're going to see at the top of the championship. A lot of experienced drivers in that championship hunt who have raced here in the previous generation of Formula 3 car, but also in other categories as well in tricky conditions.
He won't be playing a part in the top of that championship. Leading it is Rafa Kamara, despite the fact he did not score any points in the feature 8 back at Silverstone. What is the status of the championship? You just saw the points to the left-hand side of your screen. 35 points between the top 4 in the championship. It's Rafa Kamara leading Tim Tramnitz, leading Nicolas Solov, and a hard-charging Mari Boyer. We're going to talk more about that in just a second, but let's hear what our championship leader has to say about this Spa circuit.
Quite confident with the team. We have been doing a good job, and I think it has been nice in preparation, so looking forward for Spa. There's a track where I always enjoy to drive. Has been having all the time, was a good weekend here, so expecting another one.
Rafa Kamara has gone very well here in the past. He has good form at this circuit over the last 2 years in FRECA, where he stood on the top step of the podium. But it is very close coming into this championship. He doesn't only have to worry about Nicholas Solov now. His nearest challenger after good form in recent rounds actually is the German driver, Tim Travis, and then Mari Boyer, who's pulled himself back into contention. 3 podiums in a row, 2 of those at Silverstone, and the Aston Martin Junior with a win. Now right up there in the standings. Rafa Kamara does have that little bit of a buffer though. Will that change his mindset going into this weekend at all, Piers?
I mean, it's been working for him this season so far, whatever he's been doing, so I don't imagine he'll change a huge amount. At the start of the season, he came out of the blocks like an animal. He was on fire, then had a couple of tricky rounds sort of as we got towards the middle of the season. We're now in the tail end, 3 more events to go here, then next week in Hungary, and then the final round in Monza, and he'll be looking to just continue that excellent pace he's had and try and get some consistent points finishes, because he's got that buffer now. What is it, 27 points over Tim Tramnitz. He doesn't need to go and win every single race to win the championship. If he scores points in every single race going forward, it's likely he's going to be there or thereabouts come the final race of the season. So it's going to be very much a slightly more conservative Kamara. We've seen him actually be very measured in wheel-to-wheel battling this year. Sometimes actually, arguably, a little bit timid on occasion, but ultimately that's what you've got to do. You've got to sometimes just take stock and think, right now, this is not an opportunity, this is not a place or time for me to push hard and get into a crash. And he's been working well for him so far this year. The pace has never been in question.
And we mentioned one high-tech driver in Freddie Slater. We certainly cannot count out the other one, Martinius Stenchon as well. 44 back, still in with a shout as well, and definitely someone who we can still consider in this title fight. Nicholas Solov, very unfortunate so far not to capitalise on what has been 2 pole positions in a row. May feel a little bit frustrated with that, but just has to put it out of his mind, doesn't he? And know he has the potential to push forward. How about this driver though, Piers? The Aston Martin backing coming into him a couple of rounds ago, and he's followed that up with consistent results, 3 podiums.
Basically, ever since he's been signed as an Aston Martin Junior, he's been out on absolute fire. So clearly he's doing something right there, and you can see the Aston Martin branding on his visor strip, top of his visor there, doing very well. Ugochukwu we're looking at now in the Premier Racing team. The black livery, now it was orange and black at the start of the year. It's gone sort of the Darth Ugochukwu era now, with the black car. I quite like it, but I think potentially that was to do with weight. Ugochukwu, potentially one of the taller, if not the tallest driver on the grid, over 6 foot tall, and these cars run to a minimum weight limit. It's actually been increased this weekend by 3 kilograms from 722 to 725. So potentially might help Ugochukwu, because although 3 kilograms doesn't sound like a huge amount, you've seen this year, we see every single qualifying in FIA Formula 3 that times come down to thousandths, not hundredths and tenths of a second, especially in that mid-pack where Ugochukwu's found himself most of the season. And 3 kilos could be, I don't know, maybe half a tenth, something like that, which could make, jump you forward 2 or 3 rows and maybe put you in a position from 15th on the grid to like 10th, which is then the reverse grid, which completely can change the complexion of your weekend. So that might be something that will help the drivers who are more naturally heavy. Of course, all of these young drivers, athletes in their own right, they train hard behind the scenes, and it's good that the potential of the weight limit's been increased to help with those. But we mentioned Martinius Stenchon there. He is currently sitting in a good position, 5th in the championship. And if you look at the championship table, clearly experience has some value, because 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th, so Tramnitz, Solov, Boyer, Stenchon, not rookies. It's only Kamara that bucks the trend, so clearly experience this year has been paying dividends, apart from our very fast driver in front of the field. And it's race weekends like this where the experience will come in to play as well. Tricky conditions, unpredictability, lots of variables. That's when an extra year or 2 in this championship can really help you, because as a rookie you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. We saw Alessandro Giusti there, very consistent, part of the Formula E rookie test as well, was out in that at Berlin recently, just getting the support and showing that he's being noticed in this championship.
Yeah, I just saw quite an interesting little thing there. We were looking at Christian Ho, and the Dams Lucas Oil team was showing him something on the phone. That was the race director's notes that we were just looking at right ahead of the session, and they were pointing out the gantry. Yeah, there's something to note during this during practice this morning and the qualifying sessions later on. is that the drivers must cease weaving and be at racing speed at the gantry that is just before the braking zone for the final corner for safety reasons. So the team just reminding Christian of that fact, because they don't want to be getting called to the steward's office earlier in the weekend. That's Sanapol in Trapubazak had a good weekend last time out as well.
Yeah, now a winner to Sanapol in Trapubazak. Campos going fastest in practice, quali, the sprint race and the feature race as well. Very good so far for Adrian Campos and his team, and they lead the team's championship. And let's hear what Adrian Campos had to say coming into the weekend.
It's very difficult to prepare for Spa because it's so unpredictable that you never know what is going to happen. I wish to have a calm race weekend and not very stressful, but it looks like it's not going to be the case. So we just need to prepare with the drivers and explore every possible scenario during the race weekend and make sure that we know and we are aligned in the decisions that we want to take in every condition, in every possible condition during the race weekend.
Just 2 points between Campos Racing and Trident at the top, and we were talking about this before we came on air. They've got it really hooked up this season, haven't they, Campos?
No doubt. They've also kicked on as the season's gone on. They've just been getting stronger and stronger. Pushed forward, of course, by Nikola Solov, who's been in the championship hunt, chasing down Kamara along the way. But we've already spoken about Mari Boyer, currently fourth in the championship, now only 6 points behind his teammate, who's in third of Solov, who's then only 2 points back on Tramnitz in second. So they are a team that have definitely got two experienced drivers, which definitely helps them in terms of developing the car and finding out what it needs. But clearly they're doing a good job. And you know, you wouldn't have said that maybe even a couple of rounds into the season. If you'd have said that Campos are going to be going into the end of the year as potentially the strongest team, people might not have expected that, but they've done an excellent job. But we've still got a lot of racing to go this year, both in the teams and the drivers' championships. It's going to be an interesting one. Stay tuned for the rest of the year, 'cause it's going to be excellent watching, I think.
Lovely views of the start-finish straight, and there were great views there yesterday as the F1, F2 and F3 drivers are all gathered together to bear memory to both Antoine Hubert and Delano Vanthoff. They did the annual run around the circuit and went up to the Kemmel Straight, where flowers were laid for both sets of drivers. Antoine's mum, Natalie, was present, and there were flowers laid, and the drivers all came together as one, F1, F2 and F3. And Pierre Gasly spoke about this, how the paddock is all coming together every season for this. And it was the run down there towards Eau Rouge, where they had the Racing for Antoine t-shirts on, and the drivers taking a moment to remember two champions who we have sadly lost at this circuit. And I've got to say, it was a real touching tribute that we had yesterday. Many of these drivers who knew both drivers very well, and a moment there, Piers, whilst we do have some time before we do see the green light in this session. I have to say, a real moment there where we did see the paddock all come together, and it was great to see, like every year, so many drivers turn out for that, in support of the families for both drivers.
Yeah, week in, week out, the drivers and teams race against each other as competitors, and they're trying to do everything they can to beat each other on the circuit. But ultimately, it's a travelling circus, is motorsport, especially in the Formula 1 paddock and Formula 2 and Formula 3, and it's great to see everyone come together as a community in support of those drivers who unfortunately we don't have in the paddock any longer. But we race forward in their honour, I suppose, to a certain extent, because that's kind of what they spent their life doing and loving, and they wouldn't want things to change if they were still around. So no, it's great tribute to those, and we look forward to some more great racing here at what is one of the most iconic and enjoyable and thrilling and best circuits in the world here at Spa-Francorchamps.
I'm sure there'll be more tributes throughout the weekend as we await for conditions to be in a position for us to get going. It is really due to the fog that we are not able to get going. currently we cannot get a helicopter land at the circuit, and the fog around the circuit means we are not in a position to release cars out. So for now, we have more time to just have a look at the circuit. Piers, I mean, it's a circuit we've both been to. You've been there many times. From a driver's point of view, what are the biggest challenges about this circuit? I mean, over 7 kilometers of it. What are, as a driver, what are the biggest sounds that you think, biggest parts of the circuit that you look forward to the most?
It's a really thrilling circuit. It's the longest on the calendar, and it's a really unique challenge because of the low downforce configuration required here. But combine that with lots of medium and high speed corners at the same time, a real challenge for all the drivers and teams. Overtaking opportunities plenty. Turn 1 at the source, then sometimes we see even side-by-side racing going through a Rouge and Radion, and then Lecum inside and outside, or Lecom as I've been corrected as the pronunciation. And then also you've got that long runs from Stavelot all the way through Blanchimont as the bus stop as well.
Théophile Niel on our screen now. He is having quite the season so far. Is Théophile Niel for Van Amersfoort Racing. We've seen him on the podium this season, currently 7th in the championship. Let's hear what he's had to say about his F3 season so far.
Well, I think I learned a lot in terms of conditions, how to adapt quickly, how to change the setup on the car during quali as well. We have a few times to change setup on the car in quali, a few laps. So yeah, we have to be really precise in terms of feedback with the engineers. So I think I learned a lot this year with that, and as well in terms of on my side, mentally, try to be consistent as well, try to improve race pace, everything, how to manage a race, how to prepare an overtake, everything, safety car restart. So yeah, I'm actually pretty happy, but yes, I need to continue, keep working like that.
Théophile Niel and the Van Amersfoort Racing team, who are having a great season so far overall. Currently running 4th in the team championship. That would be their best season overall, and down to some great performances from the likes of Théophile Niel.
Whole different kind of horsepower there. But yes, Théophile Niel doing a great job last time out. You know, he was in the hunt for a win, but he mentioned in that interview, and also we saw in that fight for the win, the difference between the experienced drivers, the likes, as I said earlier on, between Tramnitz, Solo, Boyer, Stenshorn, who were 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th in the championship, and then Stromsen, Niel, Giusti, Tappanen and Belinsky, who were then sort of 6 through 10 in the championship, is those returning drivers who have raced in this championship before, they can execute having had experience, whereas Théophile Niel said they're learning how to set up and overtake, safety car restarts, that sort of thing. They're the fine differences that make a difference in your points tally over a season that can add up to a good points finish at the end of the year. And we saw him make a slight mistake. He overtook, didn't he, off the circuit, and then it took him a few corners to get let the driver back past, and then that ultimately led him dropping back into 3rd, which if he'd have made that move cleanly the first time or chosen a slightly better opportunity for that, he could have got the lead, held it, and that potentially would have been his first win in the championship.
Yeah, no, it was one of those decisions where he almost gambled with it, didn't he? And it was and a very interesting race that played out there. Yeah,
definitely, and it was interesting to see. Again, it was one of those moves where he did take the lead off the circuit, but he was kind of forced off there, and we've seen that here in previous seasons as well. Like Lecom is a very common overtaking opportunity on the long uphill Kemmel straight run with DRS. We often see overtaking moves trying to be made around the outside of the first right hand of Lecom, which then often sees the drivers leave the circuit on the inside of the left-hander. And then you can't keep the place, even if the driver on your inside sometimes goes off as well. So it's decisions like that. Often a rookie who thinks, right, I'm going to take this place, will go into the corner completely committed, run off the circuit, keep the place and say, oh well, he pushed me off. Whereas an experienced driver might think, I've seen this happen before, I need to make the move clean the first time, because often you only get one opportunity.
No, that's it. I think around here, last season, it was a case of if you were all together, you didn't want to be leading the train going on to the final lap. I'm sure it was Tim Tramnitz that felt the force of that. It's a very strategical track at times where the DRS train can have a real effect around here. So that's definitely going to be something that the drivers are thinking of. In terms of the circuit itself, a short run down to turn 1 into a very tight hairpin. So immediate chances as we go to La Source for overtaking him.
Yeah, 271 metres from the start-finish line, or the control line, to turn 1. So it's a shortish run, but we've seen plenty of moves, plenty of drama over the years, as it's a very sharp first corner, drops down at the apex and then widens up at the exit, but it really is a pinch point. So drivers in the mid-pack will have to be very much aware of their surroundings. But then it's a hugely long run from La Source up to Les Combes, at the highest point of the circuit. You travel uphill a very long way, up effectively like 50 metres, I think it is, height difference between La Source and Les Combes. And the straight of Kemmel is over 1 kilometre on its own, and that doesn't include Eau Rouge and Radion, which are in dry conditions in a Formula 3 car completely flat out. So you're nearly 1.5 kilometres from the top of shot there, Les Combes, up through Rouge and Radion that we're looking at now, to the braking zone of Les Combes. And then that's not the only long flat out section. You've then got a flat out section from Stavelot turn 15 all the way through Paul Frere Blanchimont to the bus stop. That is 1.3 kilometres on its own as well. So you've got effectively nearly 3 kilometres of flat out running, not in a straight line, but flat out running at this circuit, one of which has a DRS zone as well. The second of the DRS zones is over the start finish straight down towards La Source, but that'll be much less powerful due to the shorter length of straight. And then that middle sector, which starts from the entry of Les Combes all the way through Malmedy, Brussels, Ix-Pouon, Pif-Patriquet Campus, and then to the start of Stavelot, that's where basically all the corners are. So it's a real balance for the teams as well. They have to really think about the setup, primarily about the aerodynamic setup, because you want to be fast in a straight line. And for those who maybe don't know so much or aren't so up to speed, basically you can change the angle of the wings on these Formula 3 cars. The more steeply angled the front and rear wings are, the more downforce, the more grip you have in medium and high-speed corners. But then that increases your drag. So the slower you'll be on those long, flat-out runs to the last corner and then down, and then from La Source up to Les Combes, where all the overtaking happens. So it's a fairly low downforce setup here, despite all the medium and high-speed corners of the second sector. And finding that balance is important for overall lap time in qualifying to get the most speed and set your grid position. But then potentially teams and drivers might choose to have a slightly different wing setup for the race so that they're fast in the straight so they can actually overtake.
It's a sacrifice where you can take that straight line speed, but then you have to just go with it through the corners. But they're very high speed, fast corners. I mean, you look at Pouon, that is a crucial corner where if you run wide, you're going to take track limits. You do that a few times, you'll get penalties. So that's a big point for running wide through that double left-hander. So I guess there is a decision that needs to be made between driver and engineer. Do we go for it down the straight, or are we going to go through that second sector and just take the DRS? So I'm sure there is that conversation that's had between the drivers and the teams when it comes to this circuit. Yeah,
the teams and engineers generally will leave that decision in terms of downforce at a circuit like this, because it's less based on feel, which is when the driver has more of an impact. So if we go to circuits where there's a lot of medium and low speed corners, not so many straights, like 1 week time when we go to Hungary, not many straights there. So that'll be effectively slap the downforce on, keep the minimum corner speed high, and then tune it with the driver for the balance. Whereas somewhere like here, the engineers, the teams will be working to balance the speed on the straights at sectors 1 and 3 versus the average speed in the medium and high speed corners in sector 2. And that's something that you can't inherently feel. It's more of a mathematical calculation than a feeling for a driver, because ultimately you put more downforce on the car, it feels better, you've got more grip, you think it's quicker, but over a lap time, you might be quicker through sector 2, but if you're losing half a second in both sector 1 and sector 3, you're unlikely to gain a second back in the middle sector alone in the corners. So that's the difficulty, and why the teams are so important, and why the teams or each car has its own race engineer or two, and the teams can have a big influence on the performance of the car. Ultimately the drivers have to drive it, but if you've got a good engineer and a good team behind you, you can be confident that you're going to be there or thereabouts if you put a lap together in qualifying and in the races.
Absolutely. Good to see smiles on the pit wall of Prema. They became teams champions here last year, winning with Dino Beganovic. There is Ivan Dominguez, and drivers have been in the car a little while now, haven't they? So it will be a case of just trying to keep themselves dialed in at this point, because at some stage I'm sure the green light's going to come on and they will be released. So what's going to be going through their mind at this point? It's been a little while since they've gone through any preparation, if they have that routine. Some drivers, I'm sure, just may go through a routine of jumping in and going for it, but if they've gone through all that preparation, then it's been a little while since mentally they've switched on for this now, and it's been since we were supposed to go green about 25 minutes, so drivers have had to have a bit of a wait here.
Yeah, it's a weird mental situation when you get yourself mentally fired up and, you know, everything get good to go in terms of your mental situation, and then you have to sit in the car for ages because the cars are quite warm in there, you're quite cramped in there. It's not the most comfortable, it's slightly a claustrophobic environment, albeit these drivers are very comfortable with it and used to it because it's their profession, it's the thing they do. But then to sit there and have not long, it can quite quickly have almost like a bounce back effect where you feel like you're almost getting a bit lethargic because you're sitting still for so long. And yeah, and it's also the teams have to keep the cars in perfect shape as well. You'll see them starting and stopping the cars periodically to keep the engine, water and fluid temperatures in the right window, so that when we do go driving, the cars are ready to go.
Well, there is Murray Boyer on screen, pulling himself into this championship fight now. 4th in the championship with 3 rounds to go. Let's hear what he had to say about the title fight going into these final 3 rounds.
Since I joined Aston Martin, everyone is telling to me that if I have more pressure, and clearly I don't feel like this. Since I'm with them, everything has happened really good, and the results are coming, so I'm just feeling really comfortable, and I'm enjoying all the time on track. So I know that now there are coming 3 tracks that I really like, especially the last 2. And I think for my driving style suits really well, so I'm looking forward a lot to them. Speaking about the championship, P2 is really close, P1 maybe is a bigger gap, but 3 rounds, it's still a long way till the end, and we will try our best. Keeping our momentum from the last races will help, and yeah, let's see, and I will fight for everything.
There's Murray Boyer, who now just preparing to jump out, actually. When you get that T-shirt on, you know, we've seen it in the paddock, it does come with a bit more weight to it than just a normal team T-shirt, so to speak, doesn't it? Drivers just jumping out now, as we have been here a little while. But he's dealt with that very well, and you can see just in that interview, he looks very happy wearing the Aston Martin green, doesn't he?
Clearly he is, but it's almost like an ancient Chinese proverb. It's not the T-shirt that gives you the power. The strength comes from within. It's just a mental thing. But it's great for these drivers, a lot of them, to have the backing and connection with the Formula One teams they aspire to in the future. I mean, we were just, while Murray was chatting there, Chris, we were having a look at the championship standings, and the 8 of the top 10 drivers in the championship at the moment are already connected with a Formula One team. If we look down, we've got Rafa Kamara, Ferrari junior driver, and then 2 Red Bull juniors in Tramnitz and Solov, 2nd and 3rd. Boyer, we just heard from, in 4th, he's with Aston Martin. Martinius Stenshorn in 5th, McLaren junior driver, Noah Stromstead, a Mercedes junior driver in 6th. Then Teofil Nile, the first of the drivers who isn't directly currently connected with the Formula One team. That, you know, may not stay the case if he continues on the form he's on. Then we go Giusti in 8th place, Williams junior driver, Tapperden in 9th, Ferrari junior driver, and then Belinsky is the 2nd of the drivers. And this driver right here, who doesn't have currently F1 backing, but if you're in amongst a lot of drivers who do have F1 backing, you're putting yourself very much in the shop window for the future.
Exactly that. 11 F1 juniors on grid overall, which just shows you the amount of attention they have. And as you said, those 2 in particular, Teofil Nile and Roman Belinsky, if you're in that top 10 amongst those F1 supported drivers, you're just saying, you know, hello, I'm here as well. Yes. So it is, as you mentioned, just putting yourself in the shop window. But for the others, it shows you how much attention there is to this grid from the F1 teams, and already from now down in karting, even the F1 teams are supporting drivers coming through. And and getting them up through the likes of Formula 3 and into Formula 2, and then from there to Formula 1. And most recently, we've seen some great success stories with the likes of Isaac Hadjar, who came through this championship through F2 and into F1, and Ollie Behrman, another who took victory here.
Yeah, and it's also interesting that when we're talking about these young drivers in Formula 3 and below who have F1 backing. I mentioned 8 of the top 10 in the championship currently have F1 backing, and it's not that. Well, it is partly, but it's an interesting one. It's like having the F1 backing does give you some advantages. It doesn't help you directly on circuit. Of course, all of these FIA Formula 3 cars are exactly the same, only difference being the way you drive it and the way the team set the car up. So all the components are the same, as you're seeing Jock Clear there, the F1 Academy leader. So he's been looking over the likes of Kamara and Tappanen this season as Ferrari juniors. But it doesn't give you an advantage directly on circuit, but often the academies, they can give you training, they can give you nutrition advice, they can make sure that you're working towards the right things because they have the experience of bringing drivers up in the past and they know what works and they know what doesn't. But also, then there's an additional sort of psychological benefit that you've already got that validation. But that comes with pressure to a certain extent, and that's something that some drivers sink with and some drivers swim with. If you get that pressure, it can make some drivers perform worse. Other drivers, it really pushes them on. I mean, you look at the likes of Kamara, he's had the Ferrari backing, was it the second year that he's at the Ferrari Academy, and he's really pushed on. And we've seen now with Boyer, he's had the Aston Martin backing, really giving him an extra spring in his step. Whereas other drivers, as soon as you get the eyes on you of the F1, it almost can feel like a weight on your shoulders. But it's a good weight to have. Yeah,
I mean, look, Kamara's had that Ferrari backing with him through Freca, and he won that championship. If he's to go on and win this championship, the future looks very bright for the Brazilian driver, doesn't it? With that backing from such a major manufacturer. But the same can be said for his competitors as well. Nicolas Solov, now a Red Bull Junior, has switched over from Alpine backing to Red Bull backing. If he's to go on and win this championship and then move up into Formula 2, and that's where particularly all the top 10 want to go now. They want to move on, and it's this part of the season where they'll be looking to make those decisions. If he has a Red Bull Juniors to go on, win this championship, then all of a sudden he's just starting to put himself in conversation for what could be the future for him in the next few seasons. And that's exactly what this championship is all about. If you're joining us for the first time, Formula 3, these drivers could be 2 or 3 years away from being within the very top step level of this sport, and this driver is one example of that. Tuka Tappanen won the Middle East Formula Regional Championship last year, championship podium, shall I say, in Freca, and now getting great results in Formula 3, all with that Ferrari badge on.
If you're watching Formula 3, maybe it's your first season you've been watching and you haven't followed junior categories for many years. The drivers on this grid, some of them will make it to Formula 1. It's inevitable, and we are very, very likely looking at some world champions, if not multiple world champions, at the moment on this grid right now. It's hard to call who it's going to be. You never exactly know, but this is why we love Formula 3 so much. It's amazing competitive racing that we love to watch, and it's great. It's great action on circuit, but it's also the future of our sport, the future of motorsport. These drivers will go down, or the best of these drivers will go down in history as some of the best drivers in existence. And it's exciting to see them at such a young age and watch them develop into the drivers they will become in Formula 1 and other top level racing. Some drivers will end up making it to Formula 1. Some will not. Some will move sideways, maybe go to sports cars, GT cars. We've seen drivers from Formula 3 and in its previous guises as well win world championships in for example, and go and win Le Mans or the World Endurance Championship or Formula E or whatever. So it really is a breeding ground for talent in motorsport, and I'm excited to see what the future holds. But we don't, you can't predict that, but we can look forward to a great weekend every weekend of racing because it's always so close. The level is so high.
I don't know if you've seen the Racing Bulls content, but they are always watching the F3 races. They are walking into the circuit. Liam Lawson cheering on Louis Sharp as he's walking in, and Isaac Hadjar, I mean, he just loves watching this sport as well. It wasn't so long ago he was racing in this championship, and always they do post some clips of those two watching in, and they won't be the only one. Most of the F1 drivers do tend to keep an eye on who is next to come through, who's going to be their next opponents, essentially, as we see Mary Boyer climb out the car. And if you have joined us a little bit late, we've had a delayed start to this practice, and for now that continues because of the fog around the circuit. So at the moment the drivers are climbing out the car because they have been in there quite a while. This was due to get underway 35 minutes ago. So the drivers are going to climb out the cars and await further instruction, essentially. All we've had in terms of updates is that the start will be delayed, and that came through to us just before the start of the session. We can't really give you any more updates from now, I'm afraid. Alessandro Giusti
giving us the snooze hands there. Yeah, the drivers will be itching to go. They'll want to get out on the circuit, because let's not forget, this will be the first time that this new car for 2025 will have run at the Spa-Francorchamps circuit. So the teams will be itching to get on circuit as well, because all of the teams and drivers have made predictions on how they think the car should be set up and what's going to work and what's not, but they don't know until they've been out on circuit.
I mean, for Freddie Slater as well, he'll want to get out there, coming back into the championship, but others as well, they'll really want to get out onto that circuit. Returning drivers in the championship, it is a new car. They'll want to get out onto the circuit, see how the new car feels in comparison to the old car. General thoughts, Piers, let's talk about the new car. I think overall it's proved to be very successful, hasn't it? We've seen some fantastic racing throughout the season overall, running on the 100% Aramco sustainable fuel as well. And we've seen real good racing overall. The competitiveness of the championship has been great. Lots of different winners, look, in terms of the pole positions, we've seen a bit of a domination between Solov and Kamara, but I think that can just be a real respect shown to those two drivers and the talent that they have on a one-lap pace. But podium finishes, we've seen plenty get up there, and the quality of the racing has been great.
No doubt. That's one thing I've actually been really impressed with this year, is how drivable the car looks. Whenever we've jumped on board with the car, on board with the drivers, in qualifying or even the races, it looks like the drivers are really able to dance these cars around despite the high downforce levels. It looks like a real driver's car from what we gather as well. It seems like the drivers are enjoying driving the cars. We've seen great racing as well, lots of side-by-side action, overtaking, using DRS and not using DRS, which is what we want to see, because it's important that these drivers can race each other, can overtake, because we know single-seater slicks and wings racing, it is more difficult to overtake and follow closely than in other forms of on-circuit motorsport. But the fact that we can overtake means these drivers are able to push through after a bad qualifying, gives entertaining racing and gives them experience at overtaking in these cars, which will then prepare them for Formula 2 and Formula 1. Because if it's a qualifying championship and no one can overtake, then you're training only one lap pace really, and you're not training all the attributes that you need to be a successful driver. Seeing that's Freddie Slater there, the driver that's joining us once again this weekend for Hijack TGR. But yeah, it's really good to see. I think it's been a great success so far. Of course, there's always a few bits and pieces that the teams and drivers and championship need to get used to with a new car, but I've been very impressed personally.
Yeah, likewise. Tim Dramnitz there, jumping out the car now, and the drivers will wait for further instruction. I think a few of the times I've been to Spa, there has always been a bit of fog around. It's just one of those places, isn't it, where this tends to happen. So we'll wait. The weather could be a factor this weekend as well, particularly on Sunday. I know there is rain forecast for Sunday. It wouldn't be a Spa weekend with some unpredictable conditions around. Wow, there we go.
That's just a very visual example. Normally, you can see the paddock from this shot here. This is at Jacket X Corner, formerly no name, but now has a name. We're basically looking at the paddock where the drivers are in the start-finish straight, but not today because the low-hanging cloud. It says fog, but it's almost like you're in the clouds, isn't it? In this forest here. The visibility actually at circuit level isn't terrible. You can see almost the whole kilometre down towards the exit of Radion. That's looking backwards down the Kemmel Straight, but it's just the issue up and above the circuit, I think, is, as you mentioned, that helicopter that isn't able to land that we need to be able to go on circuit. Clearly the visibility is not there. Hopefully at some point we'll get a gap in the clouds which will allow things to start moving, because we want to see these cars in action. Drivers understandably getting out of the cars, as there's no indication quite of yet when we'll get racing, but they'll normally give us at least a 3 or 5 minute warning, which will allow the drivers time to get back in the cars. And it can be quite uncomfortable if you're sat in one position in the cars for long periods of time, because it's pretty cramped in there. And you can effectively, when you get out the car, as you saw Solov and Slater, you can take your helmet off, you can relax for a bit and then reset.
Yeah, absolutely. There we go. We're just waiting for that green light to come on. Roman Belinsky, he's had a very impressive season, I have to say. Still doesn't have full feeling in his left foot. And
amazing.
Quite incredible, the journey he's been on as a driver. When you see his warm-up routine and his warm-down routine, not something you'd want to go through yourself. It looks incredibly uncomfortable, but that's the sacrifice he's taken as a driver to go through and get himself back into this position. Had a road accident last year, which put him out the seat for quite some time, for around 3 months, and lost all feeling down that left leg, had to learn how to walk again, and still his left foot isn't able to feel. And given this is a very stiff brake pedal, and it's like, the context is driven at this level, it's like hitting a brick wall, essentially, isn't it?
It's honestly amazing, the journey to recovery that Belinsky's been through after his road traffic accident. I think he got some sort of minor spinal column damage or something, or nerve damage, didn't he?
It was,
which, I mean, first of all, to come back from that even to a full functioning, I might say full functioning, to function enough to walk around, amazing, the effort he put in. But then to be back on the grid, moving up a step in his career into Formula 3 with, as you mentioned, not full feeling in his left leg, which is arguably the most important part in your body to have feeling in, because the brake pedal is not only something that the drivers use to slow the car down, but the way that you use the brake pedal as you come into a corner, the way that you're able to modulate it precisely, is critical to lap time and performance, and also in cut and thrust of racing. And he's able to do that at the level he is incredible. And he's, as we mentioned, currently sitting 10th in the championship.
Now the F3 practice session will be postponed, so that is the message.
Well, Omi, that's a surprising message, because where do we put it in the schedule? There's no room to run the F3 practice session anywhere else, so we've got a postponed session.
Yeah, looks like we're going to get back to the Imola Chaos from 2022. The only slot I can find for them is they would have to do the practice later on today when it comes to the gap as well, after the F1 practice, and then they'd have to do the F3 quali possibly after F1 spring quali. So they'll have to shift something back, especially after it. So luckily F1 spring quali does end earlier than what usually we would be having an FP2, so there is plenty of time at the end of the day. But we do also have the Porsche Super Cup practice, which we also have to remember, so it's a bit of a mess. There is quite a bit as well, so they need to try and find a slot at the end of the day, let's say, or tomorrow's going to be quite different, let's just say.
If they maybe shift qualifying as well around and put the sprint race at the end of the day for tomorrow, and have qualifying in the morning, we run practice in the qualifying time, I don't know, but it's critical that they do get practice time. Otherwise, well, we're all in trouble. So, we knew that was coming, because in about 15 minutes' time we've got to start the F2 practice session. So it was kind of inevitable, sadly. So our first stream in HD not gone the way we were expecting. Comically, I'm going to ask you, Omi, thoughts of your session?
Well, I guess it was interesting to see all of the fans in the grandstands enjoying themselves. That's the most important thing. And yeah, it's an amazing circuit, but I would like to see some Formula 3 cars. And I would like to correct you. So not the first stream that Formula 3 have had in HD. They've had that with me before.
Oh, you. With you. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, I'm just glad that... The thing is, OBS is updated, you see. So we used to be able to run, what was it, 19... or something or other, 8.0 in 720, but now we can run 1080p on my streaming PC because they've updated the software, and my PC just about likes to do it. We haven't had a problem so far, touch wood. But we are changing the streaming PC next year anyway, and JT's just got a behemoth streaming PC, and he's going to be producing a lot over the coming weeks as well. So JBM's on the up. Sorry, we're going to bring you the practice session. We'll see later on what happens. Next up, it's Formula 2 session in around about 20 minutes' time. See you then. Bye-bye.